In the pre-dawn hours of July 20th, chaos broke out in Moscow Oblast. A fire lit the skyline near Zelenograd, a city northwest of central Moscow, as dozens of drones reportedly breached Russian airspace.
Блин, как хорошо, что ребята пришли. Пришли, тихо, бабушка.
Ну, даже слышно не было.
Marking yet another escalation in the shadow conflict brewing between Ukraine and Russia. What was once a war fought over land and ideology now seems to be shifting into a new phase, a digital siege against the heart of a superpower. Local telegram channels were the first to report the incident. Witnesses described the unmistakable roar of emergency sirens and the chilling sight of flames engulfing vehicles near residential complexes. Security camera footage soon surfaced, showing debris, presumably from one of the drones, striking the upper floors of an apartment building. The silence before impact was deafening, the aftermath all too familiar. According to Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, at least 21 Ukrainian drones had been launched toward the Russian capital since 6 p.m. local time the previous evening. Emergency crews mobilized quickly, working to contain any fires and assess damage. But this wasn't just a one-off incident. The Russian Defense Ministry later announced that its forces had intercepted a staggering 93 Ukrainian drones in total, 19 directly over Moscow Oblast, and 16 others headed in that direction. These numbers, whether accurate or exaggerated, signal a significant change in the tempo of attacks. Zelenograd became a focal point. Known primarily as a hub for Russia's electronics and defense industries, it now finds itself on the front lines of a 21st century conflict. The fire, believed to have been sparked by drone wreckage, illuminated just how close warfare has crept to everyday life. Cars burned, residents watched from their windows, and online, the narrative began to spread faster than the flames themselves. In response to the attack, the Federal Air Transport Agency, Rosavietsia, imposed temporary flight restrictions across all 4 Moscow airports. Incoming flights were rerouted to Pulkovo Airport in St. Petersburg. Normal operations resumed around 4 a.m. local time, but the disruption highlighted a new reality. Aerial threats are no longer confined to military zones. They can force major logistical shifts in civilian infrastructure, and they can do so overnight. This wasn't an isolated event. It marked the 4th consecutive night Moscow had come under fire. The rhythm of the drone strikes, once rare and sporadic, had become chillingly consistent. For months, Ukraine's cities had endured relentless bombardments from Russian drones. Kiev, Kharkiv, and Lviv saw infrastructure crippled, power grids shut down, and citizens forced into shelters. Now Ukraine seems to be flipping the script. The capital of the aggressor is no longer untouchable. Kiev's official stance remained characteristically silent. Ukrainian leadership rarely confirms cross-border operations, especially those targeting Russian soil. But analysts and military insiders have long acknowledged Ukraine's increasing ability to hit strategic targets deep within Russia, thanks in part to evolving drone technology and intelligence coordination. The strikes also come at a moment of diplomatic turbulence. In a shocking report by the Financial Times, former U.S. President Donald Trump is said to have offered the Kremlin a 50-day window to reach a peace deal or face severe economic consequences, specifically crushing tariffs from Washington. That ultimatum was reportedly delivered amid private conversations with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. During a June phone call, Trump allegedly asked Zelensky whether Ukraine had the capability to strike Moscow. Zelensky, according to the source, responded yes, if given the proper weaponry by the United States. The implications of this exchange were staggering. Would the U.S., even hypothetically, provide long-range systems capable of reaching Moscow? Would Ukraine, emboldened by international backing, escalate the scope of its attacks? After the comments surfaced, Trump took a step back, telling reporters that Zelensky should not attack the Russian capital, and clarifying that the U.S. had no plans to supply such weaponry. But the message had already landed. The mere suggestion stirred geopolitical waters long thought to be frozen. Drone warfare is reshaping how nations defend themselves. These aren't lumbering aircraft of old. Modern drones are small, fast, programmable, and increasingly autonomous. They can be launched from discrete locations, piloted remotely across borders, and armed with precision payloads. The line between surveillance and strike is vanishing. And Ukraine has adapted fast. From cobbling together hobby drones in garage workshops to employing more sophisticated military-grade UAVs, their tactics have evolved alongside their tech. Russia's vast air defense network, once considered impenetrable, is now being tested nightly. The Kremlin's silence about the full extent of the damage only adds to the intrigue. For Moscow residents, these attacks raise uncomfortable questions. Is the city truly secure? Can the government prevent future incidents, or merely respond once they've occurred? The persistent threat of incoming drones, coupled with cryptic government statements, has left many uncertain about the safety of even the most protected urban spaces. What's clear is that these strikes are not just physical, they're psychological. Every flaming wreckage, every rerouted flight, and every fireball lighting the night sky tells a story, a message, that no power, no matter how fortified, is immune to asymmetric warfare. Ukraine's campaign may be one of necessity and desperation, but its results are impossible to ignore. Geopolitically, this dynamic introduces new pressure points. NATO members, already cautiously watching the conflict, now face a scenario where the capital of a nuclear power is being tested by drones, possibly armed, possibly just probing. The margin for miscalculation has never been thinner. One wrong interpretation of an aerial ping, one overreaction to what might be reconnaissance, could spiral into something far more dangerous. Even within Ukraine's ranks, the balancing act continues. Officials know every attack carries risk, not just in retaliation, but in international perception. There's a fine line between strategic deterrence and provocation, especially when major powers are involved. In this evolving conflict, words matter, technology matters, and timing matters most of all. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Russia retaliate with greater force? Will Ukraine continue to push deeper into Russian territory? Will diplomatic efforts temper the spiraling cycle, or only fuel it through miscommunication and mixed signals? Zelenograd may be just one city, but its name now joins a growing list of locations where modern warfare and global politics collide. And as both sides continue to refine their strategies, the rest of the world watches, aware that the battlefield is no longer distant. It's overhead, it's online, it's tomorrow's war, unfolding today. Thanks for watching. If you found this expose insightful, like and subscribe for deeper dives into global conflict, technology, and diplomacy. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think these tactics signal a new era in warfare, or are we inching closer to something more dangerous? Until next time, stay aware, stay curious.